Hello, I'm Jonasz Rewiński and you're watching Break the Fake. They make them, we break them, and tell you everything you need to know. Over the past few days, an old hit has resurfaced on social media and on pro-Russian media outlets. A story about the alleged Nazi ancestors of European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen. She is purportedly linked to various figures of the Third Reich and is embellished with occult plots and photo collages that circulate endlessly, without sources, or without any documentary evidence. Now, the goal of this campaign is not historical justice, but rather the discrediting of a politician who openly supports Ukraine. These pieces of evidence follow a simple scenario. Slap an heir to fascism label on a politician and people will view their rhetoric differently. In turn, given how European countries are, democracies, those same people could, Moscow hopes, possibly vote those leaders out and maybe put some Putin shills in their place, especially with the help of some election meddling and targeted social media campaigns. It's been done before, semi-successfully at least, so Moscow reasons, why not give it another shot? And what about the evidence, you may ask? Well, the answer is nothing, except for the aforementioned collages and some forged signatures. Investigators and fact-checkers have repeatedly debunked these fabrications. Photos are incorrectly captioned, names are mixed up, and historical records and archives do not confirm any family ties with well-known Nazi officers. Even the European Commission's press service has categorically denied such claims, and independent fact-checkers have called them false. Next time someone links a European politician to Nazi ancestors, well, suggest that the authors take a short course in genealogy, perhaps, or at least in the ethics of photo editing. Better yet, check the facts before making a sensational story like that in news of the day. Our paper tigers at the Kremlin may not be particularly adept at winning actual wars, but disinformation? That's definitely their forte. Smear campaigns have been a vital part of their toolkit for a while now. Anybody they don't like is labeled a Nazi. President Zelensky is baselessly accused of being a drug addict. Poland allegedly started World War II. And Ukraine is supposed to live off illegal organ trade. The evidence? Trust me, bro, mixed with AI slop and cheap photo manipulation mostly. Trusting Russia with information is like placing all your investments in rare Labubus or NFTs. Yet, given how fast the lie can travel, some of it will slip through. But no worries, we are the cleanup crew. Who are you gonna call? Fake busters. When the Kremlin's leading mouthpiece utters phrases such as "there will be no life in Kharkiv, Poltava, Mykolaiv or Odessa, these cities will cease to exist and so will Kiev," this is no longer just a loud statement made on the air. It is a blatant call for violence against the civilian population of Ukraine, which has consequences in the real world. Such messages do not appear in the information field by accident. They form part of a systematic strategy. Verbal terrorism precedes the real deal. And when this is repeated in thousands of podcasts and social media posts, silence is simply no longer an option.
На войне побеждают не такие или не такие, а яростные. Яростные! Ломающие волю к сопротивлению. Поэтому еще раз повторю. Вот мы, наконец, стали выносить к чертям. Не будет жизни ни в Харькове, ни в Полтаве, ни в Николаеве, ни в Одессе. Не будет этих городов и не будет Киева, если мирные жители не осознают, что их избрали как расходный материал и не скинут свою нацистскую власть. А нет сил, хотя бы уйдите из тех городов, поймите, что вас используют как живой щит. Нет сил уйти, извините. Напомню вам судьбу Содома и Гоморры. Там наверняка тоже были жители, которые просто не могли уйти. Просто вынуждены были жить, как все.
Propaganda that denies an entire people the right to life follows a simple script: dehumanize in order to justify, a psychological preparation for violence. Solovyov's rhetoric has long since lost even a modicum of credibility. Where there should be facts, there are fireworks of emotion. I mean, look at him. It's like he's shouting orders to some invisible army. Napoleon syndrome, anybody? Not to mention, he also recently admitted, grudgingly, that Ukraine is not collapsing at all and is in fact becoming stronger. Much like the occasional state company CEO, logic in Russia has a nasty habit of going straight out of the window. Ukraine naturally has learned to respond not with fear but with dignity. When another Kremlin mouthpiece threatens destruction, people respond with, everyday life. Some bake bread. Some paint murals and ruined walls. Some do volunteer work. Yet another proof that life in Ukraine is, was, and will be. And Solovyov? Well, with his exaggeration Bond villain shtick, it's hard to tell if he even believes what he says. Is he putting on an act? Well, it doesn't matter. He has crossed the Rubicon when he started literally advocating genocide, which, as a few members of the media establishment in Rwanda have found out, may occasionally have legal consequences. The largest Indian buyer of Russian oil, Reliance Industries Ltd, has decided that it is time to take a break from the game commonly known as the Sanctions déjà vu. The company, owned by Mukesh Ambani, India's richest man, said it would take into account changing market and regulatory conditions. In simple terms, it is preparing to comply with Western sanctions against Russian oil giants. It seems Reliance decided that its, reliance on Russian crude isn't worth having to explain themselves before the US Treasury Department, after all. Previously, Reliance had a long-term agreement with Rosneft to supply about 500,000 barrels of crude oil per day. To understand the scale, this is roughly equivalent to filling up every second motor scooter in Mumbai with fuel, and then some. But after the latest sanctions by the US, the UK and the European Union, the company decided to reconsider its oil sympathies. Bloomberg reports that Reliance is already actively buying oil from the Middle East. And if earlier such purchases looked like a light flirtation, now it's more like a dinner date with a scenic view of Middle Eastern oil fields. In the corporate world, this is called reputational risk. But in essence, it is the fear of losing access to the dollar systems. And if you are the largest oil refiner in the world with a turnover of hundreds of billions, then dollars are not just money, they are oxygen. Reliance understands perfectly well that the West can forgive many things, but sanction dodging is not one of them. Following Reliance's decision, analysts predict a sharp decline in Russian oil supplies to Indian refineries. According to Bloomberg estimates, the only major exception will be Nayara Energy Limited, in which Rosneft holds a stake. Russian crude oil may still feel at home there, although it is possible that these companies will also have to look for alternative routes. The irony is that 2 years ago, Moscow positioned India as a strategic partner, and now that same partner is politely reminding Moscow that strategy is strategy, but compliance is paramount. Reliance does not make bold political statements. It simply reads financial reports and observes the market. And the market is currently sending a clear message. Russia is risky. Sanctions are even riskier. And although there will always be room for grey areas in the energy world, large companies do not want to test how quickly these colors change. Grey area one day, in the red a day later. And with this, we conclude this edition of Break the Fake. Please stay with us here on TVP World for more latest news and updates.